Welcome back to Midnight Movie Club and my review of Godzilla vs. Kong. Godzilla vs. Kong pits the two most iconic kaiju, or in this instance titans, against one another in a battle of the ages. In this next epic chapter in the Monsterverse, who will prevail and who will fall? So right off the bat in this review, I have to gush about the action and the CGI, even everything down to the last little strand of Kong's fur and how his fur even moves in wind and rain and reacts to the locations that he is in. This film's CGI is next to one. Honestly, I thought it was amazing in the previous Monsterverse films, but Godzilla vs. Kong steps that up even further. That bar is raised once again, and then even things that we've seen before like Godzilla's atomic breath, it is just beautiful in this film, honestly, as it's slicing through buildings and other things within every location we travel to. It just looks absolutely glorious, and it's easily the best looking Monsterverse film we've seen yet, especially when a lot of the action actually does take place during the day, which will be a welcome inclusion for a lot of people out there who had a problem with King of the Monsters and all the other ones, you know, being set largely at night. Skull Island was a little bit of an exemption from that, but even that did have a lot of nighttime action. This film, Godzilla vs. Kong, does have a lot of daytime fighting, and I know that'll please a lot of people. It was nice to see every little nook and cranny and every little detail as Titans were beating the absolute shit out of one another. The cinematography itself was on point and shows the Titans in all of their glory, and it really lets the action play out before cutting too often. The colour scheme is vibrant in almost every location we go to. The lighting coming from the environment and the Titans themselves is spectacular and is an absolute sight to behold. Honestly, Godzilla vs. Kong is an eyegasm. We've got locations like the Hollow Earth, which some of the shots just look absolute pieces of art. You could hang them up on the wall. And then when you put these Titans in places like Hong Kong, the Hong Kong skyline's nice enough, but when you see these kaiju coming at one another in that location with the way it is shot, honestly, it's really well done. The direction from Adam Wingard, he's a director I really like. I really like The Guest. I thought The Blair Witch was okay. Death Note, we don't need to talk about it. Your Next is really good, and I just think he has a good eye for direction, and you know that goes for the same with the actors, but whoever the cinematographer was with him on this one, honestly, take a bow, sir, because this film looked amazing. Touching on the human stuff, well, I mentioned it there. The human stuff, it was okay. The acting was pretty good. I can't complain with any of them. Some of it was a little bit cheesy, but I was actually okay with that. And even in the start, there was a few characters I wasn't too sure about, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to like them at all throughout this film, aren't I? But a few of them actually grew on me as the film went. None of them really have arcs or anything like that. The way they start is really the way they finish. But yeah, I hope they grow on you the same way they grew on me, because by the end of the film, I really did like everyone, and I didn't really mind the human stuff all that much. It was once again probably the weakest part of the film, like it always is in Monsterverse movies, but in this one it was definitely stronger than like King of the Monsters, I do have to say that. And the pace of the film itself was so damn fast that you get to the good stuff really quick, and you really do skim through all the kind of boring human stuff pretty fast, so it's nothing that bogs the film down too much. In saying this though, the quick action and the pace of this film, at the end, it probably does leave you wanting a little bit more. The runtime comes in just under 2 hours, and honestly I think they could have rounded it up to 2 with some extra stuff, maybe a couple more sequences in the Hollow Earth showing us how they traverse that landscape and how dangerous it really is, not just for Titans but for humans as well. They could have showed off maybe a few more creatures here or there. They could have fleshed out maybe a couple more little fights here or there as well. I thought there could have been room for one more fight in the middle of the film, but we didn't quite see that. I thought the runtime could have been extended just slightly to give us that little bit more, but what we do get is so damn good, it just flashes past in an instant. But I really do think there was room to explore things a little bit more with certain aspects of the film, but that's just me. Maybe I am being a little bit greedy there. One problem I did have though, which was probably the biggest problem of the film for me, was suspension of disbelief. And I know this sounds silly when it's a giant monster movie, but you can only suspend your disbelief so far, do you know what I mean, before you start questioning stuff. And it kind of takes you out of the movie when you start looking at stuff, rolling your eyes and kind of laughing like, wait, hang on a second, how is that actually going on? Even though this is a movie about giant monsters fighting one another, it does, you know, a couple little scenes here or there, you're just thinking, wait, that can't be happening, that can't happen. And then a couple times what characters say, they contradict. And yeah, I get it, we brush over that stuff nice and quick to get to the action, but some of that stuff does need fleshed out a little bit. It kind of skips the exposition straight for the action. And exposition, if it's too heavy-handed and there's too much, it's very bad. Like King of the Monsters, I didn't like the exposition in that, but sometimes it is very helpful to just guide us through the movie and let us know that, no, this is supposed to be like that because of this. Do you know what I mean? It's not really hand-holding, it's just letting you know that this is still grounded and it's still meant to happen this way, so don't feel weird when you see it happen. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, the suspension of disbelief in this one, you've got to suspend it quite a lot. For me, it's not much of a problem. I can look past that, especially when it's, you know, involving giant monsters throwing down, but I could see that turning some people off. I mentioned it before, the different locations, and I just really like how we saw a lot of Titan fights in these different locations and how the Titans actually adapted to those locations and made them work in their favour. Godzilla and Kong really seem to know their own strengths and weaknesses and their opponents and expose them. I do believe though that the ancient rivalry between the two species could have been explored more so that it could build up more hatred between them, you know, building up to their first encounter and their first fight, so that when the gloves are off, that hate is there and that, you know, millennia of rivalry is just ready to explode. I do feel that they could have built up that first encounter a little bit more, and maybe that's one of the things they could have explored a little bit more if they extended that runtime. Also do want to mention that some of the characters were pretty redundant. Some of them were literally just there to answer phone calls and kind of follow the action but not really do anything. I do feel that in the other MonsterVerse movies the characters were a little bit more involved. Obviously Team Kong, the people who are with Kong, they're far more involved. But Millie Bobby Brown's character Madison and her friend Joshua, who team up with Bernie, I feel like they were just along for the ride. They were just like part of the audience. There is something that they are pretty important for in the final act, but I actually thought it was quite silly, and it was one of those things that kind of took me out of it for a second, where I kind of rolled my eyes and went, oh, well, that was kind of shit. But it was nothing too bad. I did just feel that they were passengers just like us, and I get it, like the humans aren't the focal point of these movies, but yeah, I just think more could have been done with them, maybe, instead of, you know, just being the wide-eyed wonders walking about learning stuff as the audience learns stuff. Touching on music, the music was absolutely fantastic, and it made Godzilla seem even scarier. Honestly, it just made the action that much more epic, and every time Godzilla came onto screen, you were actually kind of worried. You're like, holy shit, he seems really evil in this one. And, you know, I'm not going to say anything about all that because I don't want to go into spoiler territory. This is non-spoilers. But the music to Godzilla is so damn intimidating when he emerges from the ocean. And I love the comparisons that Adam Wingard made with Jaws and stuff like that. There's definitely a few wee references to Jaws in here. And there's also references to past movies. The old Godzilla vs. Kong, there's some visual representations and Easter eggs in there that I'm sure people will find and enjoy. one that I loved seeing. As soon as I seen it, my face just lit up and I couldn't wipe the grin off my face. But the music was awesome. And in other places of the film where it was more of that human story, Wingard does love the use of like synthwave and 80s sort of sounds. He had that 80s sort of bass line, and I really enjoyed that, similar to The Guest. I love his taste in music, and the music for the whole film, even Kong's, tribal kind of music that followed him, and just all that music that really drums up those emotions of wonderment throughout the film was really, really on point. And as I said, it just made those epic moments even more epic. And in Godzilla vs. Kong, they really doubled down and just went all out on the over-the-top aspects of the Monsterverse. Honestly, I think they might lose some casual audience members because of this, because they go so deep into it. If you're an avid comic reader of the Monsterverse comics, you read up on all the lore, you speculate, you know absolutely everything about this universe and, the universes that predate them. I think you're going to absolutely love it. I do think some casual audience goers will be, sitting there thinking, wait, what's that? What's going on here? But hardcore kaiju fans, I feel you'll absolutely love it. I feel like I sit somewhere in between like casual hardcore. I'm a little bit of middle ground in between there, and I really did have fun with this. I also love the facial expressions and the emotion we get from the Titans in this film. Godzilla's facial expressions, when he smiles and he just looks up for that fight, he looks so menacing, so evil. I loved his psychotic facial expressions in this. And then in contrast to that, it was against Kong's human-like emotions. Wow, yeah, it was just absolutely brilliant, and you felt a lot more, immersed and connected to the battles as well because of that. And Kong's relationship with Gia was lovely. Honestly, my favourite interactions in the film were between them two, and they really do bring out that emotion for the monsters in this film. Really helps humanise them. And I know it's Kong, but it helps humanise Godzilla as well, because, at the end of the day, they're all titans, they've all got feelings deep down underneath those scaly, scary, exteriors. So yeah, it really did help humanise them and bring across the emotion and add more stakes to the fighting. The fighting was just absolutely brutal. One thing that really helps this is epic sound design. You absolutely do hear every bite, slash, scrape and break. You really do feel for the Titans when they are fighting, as you can almost feel what they are going through during battle. Honestly, the amount of times I felt bad for Kong during this film. He goes through the ringer, by the way. He's dragged off Skull Island, taken across the ocean. He's never swam before. He's ate an octopus in a lake. I think that's about it. He's popped through a hole in Antarctica into this whole hollow earth place where he's never been before. He's fallen down the side of mountains and stuff like that. Then he's thrown into a fight with this ancient giant lizard rival who's also radioactive and shoots fire from his mouth. I really do feel for this guy in this one, but I also do feel for Godzilla because something's provoking him, He's like a lion that's got something stuck in its paw. He's pissed off and he's dangerous because of it. And yeah, you really do want to get to the root of that and find out what's causing him to be like this, as he's been an absolute saviour throughout the rest of the films. So it gets to you that they're painting him in a bad light and you're like, nah, clear my man's name. And I won't say anything else, but it all ends in a pretty epic battle. I also want to mention that the editing, I felt, was a lot better in this one. A lot of the time when a fight started, that was it. We were in the fight until the fight ended. We didn't cut away and go to some human bullshit while a fight between two epic kaiju was happening. We stayed in the fight with them and we were there till the bitter end. And I loved that they just let the fights play out like that and didn't cut away from them too much. It really, really made for the action to really take centre place in this film and be the best part of it. And in a Monsterverse film, the monster fights have got to be the best, let's be honest, and they are here. And in all honesty, I've always been a Godzilla guy. Godzilla was the first monster movie I watched, even though it was the 90s one with Zilla. It's definitely not the best now that I look back on it. But back in the day, I love that film. And Godzilla 2014 really holds a special place in my heart because, one, I absolutely loved the film, but it came out just after I moved to Australia. I didn't really have any friends at the time. I was homesick. I was feeling really down and depressed. Me and my family went to go see it together, and it was just an awesome family experience. And it's one of the first films we saw here in Australia when we moved. And being so far from home, seeing that film again really ignited my love for film again, and just my love for Godzilla himself and giant monster movies. And I ended up going back and watching, like King Kong, Peter Jackson's King Kong, all the old ones, and it just really made me fall in love with film again. And I got a similar feeling with Godzilla vs. Kong, seeing it with my family again, my fiance this time. I don't mean to get too soppy in this review or anything like that, but it just felt a little bit special. And I've always been a Godzilla guy, probably because of that emotional connection I've had with the movies. But honestly, in this one, this film definitely amplified my love for Kong. I'd say after Godzilla vs. Kong, Godzilla and Kong are pretty much on par for me. And yeah, definitely his relationship with Gio was great and definitely helped that. But yeah, it really does make you fall in love with the kaiju, feel for them. And yeah, you're going to love these titans even more after this film. If you're a MonsterVerse fan, you're really going to like this one, honestly. Some people out there who are just looking for a dumb popcorn flick with cool action, this is definitely the one for you. If you're looking for a more intellectual, challenging property about the end of the world because monsters are rising from the ocean in a big hollow earth, this probably isn't the one for you. If you want something that's pure airtight, no plot holes, nothing like that, definitely not the one for you. But I really, really did have fun with it. All in all, Godzilla vs. Kong is a fun time, and it absolutely flashes past at lightning speed. Yeah, there's some stuff you roll your eyes at and some stuff that's laughable, but the epic titan brawls will give you your money's worth. With all this said and done, I'm going to give Godzilla vs. Kong a 3.5 out of 5 rating. Now that you've all heard my non-spoiler review and what I made of the movie, please do, if you've seen the movie yourself, leave a comment down below what you made of it and where you rank it in the MonsterVerse. I think for me, it's still Godzilla 2014 at the top, then Godzilla vs. Kong, then Kong Skull Island, then King of the Monsters. That's just my taste, that's my opinion, do you know what I mean? And we're allowed to disagree, so let me know yours in the comment section down below. Please do beware of spoilers though. If you're watching this and you're from the US or the UK and you're not going to see it for another week, I really do feel for you guys, honestly. I hope the wait isn't much longer for you and it doesn't drag on, but please do be careful for spoilers because I've seen some posted already on YouTube and it's really shit that people do that. And if I do see you commenting spoilers, they will just be deleted, so honestly there's no point. But if you enjoyed this review, please do give it a like and let me know if you'd like a spoiler discussion. Maybe once everyone else in the world sees it, we'll do a little live stream or something like that and talk about it more in depth with all the spoilers included. If you enjoyed this yet, leave a like. If you are new here to the channel, subscribe for more content from myself. And as always, thank you very much for watching and good night.